Alrighty. Welcome everybody. We will begin in 1 second. Let's put some tape on it. Welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome everybody. Aiden. Hello. Today we're gonna try something new. After taking a short break, I'm back. I'll be attempting to try and draw a horse. And we'll see how that goes. Now you go on a break, you come back, and you are filled with new ideas and an unexplainable urge to draw a horse. Of course, with women on top, beneath, all around it, but a horse. And it's going to be a female horse with eyelashes, with fancy eyelashes. So as you can tell, the break was good for me. And I'm also gonna start with a sketch and not jump directly to the inks. And by the way, let me know if you hear me alright. Just gonna do the nose here. Okay. Just do the kind of like overall silhouette of the hair. Blowing in the wind from riding that horse. she's gonna wear a helmet and like an armor or something. She's gonna be like a warrior, basically. That's what I'm thinking. Warrior fashionista. Hello, Art by Nile. How's it going? Let me know if you guys can hear me alright and the music. Some hair blowing in the wind. So you see, our horse shares the same eyelashes as the women. Welcome everybody. Blackwing Jen, Jason. Welcome, welcome. How's everybody doing tonight? Okay, so the gag here is that she's riding the horse behind her. Let's see if that's gonna work. And then she'll be holding this like shield. Welcome everybody. Mariana. Adar. Adar is joining us from Disneyland. Alrighty, let's see if we got all the construction lines. Let's add some more depth here. Some indication of details. Some thickness here. Alrighty, so I'm thinking that this is the sketch. And now I'm gonna erase it and start inking it. Okay, so I'm gonna take my kneaded eraser and I'm gonna turn it into a ball, and then I'm just gonna lightly erase my sketch, but obviously keep enough to see when I start my inking. And even if some of it shows through the final illustration, that's fine. I like it. I like that you can see the process and the thought process of the sketch even when you're watching the final illustration. The goal of the sketch is to figure out composition and where everything goes, but the lines are not supposed to be beautiful. And I kind of want to try to leave chunks of it to see how it looks like through the pen, through the lines. So I'm just gonna leave it kind of like this, and then maybe I'll erase some more later. So we got the composition nailed down. So we got her, she's looking up, and she's gonna have like jewelries on her and earrings and stuff like that. And then we have her, and she's this like crazy ass fashionista warrior riding this horse. So it's a bit of a complicated composition, but I'm down to try it. So this is my pen, Copic Multiliner 0.5. So I'm starting with the eye. And I like to think of the eyelashes as just small, blurry triangles. And for women, I like to make them extra long. Almost like they have like add-ons for the eyelashes. So I'm kind of doing the overall shape first and then kind of like filling it in. Maybe I should have switched to a thinner pen, but it's fine. Welcome everyone who's joining us. Cool. I think the eyes came out pretty good for her. And we'll color them more at the end with like we'll choose a color or two. And then the way I like to do the eyebrows, I just like to use like just a simple thin line. But the shape has to be very accurate to give the expression. Then the nose. And then I'm gonna add a bit of shading at the end. And then for the lips, I'm just choosing carefully bits of pieces of the silhouette and not going through all of it. Yeah, that's enough. That's enough to indicate the lips. So we finished with the hard part on her. Let's just kind of go through the hair silhouette, and we'll fill it in later with color. And I'm thinking purple, but if you have any other ideas, feel free to throw them in the chat. Welcome Vera, welcome Michael, welcome everybody. You're now joining me after I finish the sketch and starting with the inking process. Now I'm just gonna do the silhouette on her, but I'm not gonna go into the strands yet because I'm gonna try to do it later with color. So something like this. And then here I'm thinking like an earring that will break the silhouette of the hair. Kind of something like this maybe. And then the hair, you know, will kind of go like this, so it would break it here. And then the neck, and then I'm just gonna do a few lines to indicate the volume. Yeah, let's do that side. It's hard to do without flipping the canvas, but I'm up for the challenge. Welcome, Isaac. Tamar, welcome. Yeah, then like Isaac, Braulio, Mariana, Hadar, welcome, welcome. Can you guys hear me? Let me know. Let me know if the mic is working. Oh, okay. Thank you, Mariana. Just wondering. I'm like talking to myself. Anyway, yeah. So that's gonna be her other earring, and then I'm gonna do like a necklace to go over her neck. So how are everybody doing tonight? Feel free to take a sketchbook and join me. Welcome AJ. Welcome Jerian. Um, I'm thinking before going through all the details here, I'm just gonna do the silhouette of the hair and move on to her, and then we'll go to all the jewelry and necklace and earrings and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just loosely following my initial sketch, but it doesn't have to be one to one. You can just improvise as well. Alrighty, let's go to her. And actually for her I will take a thinner pen. I'll take a point too. Just for the eyes and stuff. It's always interesting how the eyes are so delicate, but they inform us so much. That'll be like the upper lid. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then yeah. Let's move to the other eye. Kind of something like this. it's really easy once you have the sketch down. You already know kind of like where everything goes. It's just about improving it. Because when I was doing straight to inks, I was very I had to draw and design while inking, which is possible, but it's a lot of pressure. Because if you mess up the sketching when you're inking, there's no going back. I mean, there is. You can always like use an acrylic pen to fix things, but and what I'm noticing is when I'm doing the initial sketch with the pencils, I don't erase as much, but the fact that I could erase if I would want to gives me more confidence when I'm sketching. And when I'm sketching with a pen, I'm very careful and very like afraid of the sketch because I know that if I mess up, there's no going back. So it kind of it constrains me a bit, but it also teaches me to let go, I guess. Cool. So we got her eyes, which is the hardest part, and now the nose. Welcome everybody, Dick, David, Mariana. How is everybody doing this fine evening? This is when we wind down from our day and relaxing with a sketch of two women and a horse with eyelashes. We'll get to her. Mariana says, love the eyelashes, they look so powerful. Thank you, Mariana. And the gag here is I'm gonna give the horse the same eyelashes as I give them. So they're gonna be like sisters. Once I'll get to the horse. Yeah, I try to do the eyelashes always a bit longer for a more feminine look and a more like fashion kind of over the top look. And I kind of want them to be powerful women, but also vulnerable at the same time. So the expression that I give them are like a bit vulnerable. I mean, for her. But the setting is powerful. She's like riding a horse. She has an armor, a helmet. But the expression is supposed to be a bit vulnerable. Welcome, ARV, Fernando. All right. Alrighty. I think I'm gonna move to the horse's face. And let's see if we can give her the eyelashes treatment as well. Because our horse is fancy. And feminine. Just like our women warriors. Now I'm just gonna indicate the volume a bit. Yeah, I like it. Just filling the iris a bit more. Let's move to welcome, Kinguti. Mariana says, so pretty. Thank you, Mariana. See, because the horse, she also likes to wear makeup and dress fancy, not just the women. And with something as small as extended eyelashes, you can really give her a character and an attitude. Mariana says, haha. Yeah, she's a fancy horse. She's out and about to find her husband in the club. And you know, she has to he has to put some. What is the horse name? That's the question. If you have any ideas or suggestions, write them down. It has to be an over the top name with an attitude. A name you simply cannot ignore. So start adding some details here. Mariana says, have you thought about names for the horse? I have not. But if you have any ideas, throw them in the chat. But it has to be an over the top name. She needs to go into her horse club. Says, stop, hold your horses. and then tell everybody her name and steal all the attention. I can't think of anything. It's okay, we'll figure it out. We'll we'll Google some names when we take a break. So add some details here. I kind of want to incorporate more animals in my drawings, so hopefully this would be the beginning of it. Because I think it really adds to the story. Alright, what should we do next? I'm thinking... let's go back to her and kind of like finish defining her armor. Welcome, Isaac. Right, let's do some hair. And I'm kind of adding this hair here, but it's like, it's not really hair, it's more like those strands that coming from her, whatever she's wearing. Basically, I want like both the horse and the women to have like the same visual motifs. Something like this. And then she's wearing like a fancy helmet, I guess, or something that covers her hair. And What is this cheesy music? Let me put something else. Alrighty. Here, yeah, so let's kind of close this head band slash helmet and then have her hair kind of like coming out of it and flowing in the wind. Ooh, some epic music here. Move some stuff here. Mariana asks, what got you into art? That's a very good question. Um, I guess I really wanted to tell my stories. Um, and my day job is working on, you know, in film and TV shows and games. But I was always into telling stories with a single frame as opposed to a movie. And I kind of found my way into various art departments and have been around very influential artists and talented really talented people um, that really inspired me and wanted made me kind of try to get better and better and keep on practicing. So I would say the main reason is just the people I worked with who like got me really inspired into um, trying to tell my stories outside the studio work, and to do it by myself. And I feel like I've gotten small things from each one of them. So I feel like the kind of art that I'm making now, I can trace back the different studios and people I've met that kind of like blew up my mind and made an influence on how I do things. So on my taste and on my favorite artists to look at, especially at Blizzard. Uh, I was working with really talented director there, an art director, and my taste completely changed after my time there. So it's a big question. I still need to think. I guess I need to think of a better answer. Welcome, Matt. So I'm not gonna do the hair here like I usually do. I'm gonna use less lines and see how that works. Welcome, Lolana. Okay, I kind of like that side. Maybe just kind of like go through this again. Matt asks, have you always worked on that size of page? Actually, no. I was doing 8.5 by 11 for a while, and doing a lot of pencil work. And then when I switched to ink, I found out this paper. Let me show you. It's a super cheap one, but it works best for me. I tried all kinds of paper, and for some reason, this one, I don't know if you can see it or not, this watercolor paper that I get at Michael's, and it's like super cheap one, but it's very textured. And what I like about the texture of it is that first I like how it looks when I use markers on it, but also it creates so much friction that it kind of forces you to, it almost pushes back on your stroke. So it's kind of like, when you work in Photoshop or Procreate, you have like a smoothing option that you can do where you make a line and it makes it like almost heavy on your hand to do it, and out of that comes like a nicer curve or a smoother line. So I feel like that's the traditional media equivalent of it. So, but when I use a smooth paper with no tooth, I feel like my hand goes too fast and there's nothing stopping it. But when I use this kind of paper, it's hard to do a stroke. It's almost like you have to drag your hand, and that slows me a bit, and that kind of create my lines. It gives me a bit more control over my line. And in terms of the size, um, I think I switched to 12 by 18 once I started to do more figures. So just instead of making them super small, I I I just wanted to create them the same size but put more of them. So I just chose like a bigger paper. Um, yeah, and I want to try even a larger one. But the thing is that like with those streams, it's and this is something I want to change for the next stream. Is I feel like cinematic wise, it's when I do like a scribbly detail here, it's not as interesting when you watch it from like an establishing shot from a top down shot. So I want to do like um, in the OBS, I want to have a switcher where I can switch and it zooms in different parts. So for example, I would paint this part of the hair and the frame would be only here. And then when I move here, the frame would be here. So I would like cut it almost like a broadcast kind of like stream where you switch between your angles and everything live to create like a nicer and more interesting shot, I guess. Because I feel like if I'm drawing the eye and this is the focal point, you don't need to see all of this. You need to be focused here. But right now it's like you're stuck at that establishing shot. So anyway, maybe I'll try to do something like this for the next one. Welcome, Maribel. Welcome, Drowning. How's it going? It's going well. Today we're trying some new horses with an attitude. Welcome, Inari says hi. Hi, welcome, welcome. I hope everybody's having a good evening and that you're able to wind down from work, grab a sketchbook, follow along. I think the challenge on this one would be the coloring. So we're gonna save that to last. In the meantime, I'm gonna work on the drawing and the inking after we've done rough penciling. Matt says the watercolor paper texture is definitely lost when viewed from far away. Oh yeah, for sure. It's super subtle, but you can feel it uh, once you, especially when you're using a pen on it. So, I would try it once. I would try all kinds of paper once and see what makes you feel the best. Um, when I take photo like close-up photos of the final illustration, I usually kind of shows a bit of the texture, but yeah, I guess from far away and on the phone you can't really see it. But it's super toothy, like it's really. I feel like I'm dragging the pen in a good way. I like it. And it's the cheapest the cheapest watercolor paper at Michael's, so it's like, yeah, it's a win-win. Okay, so now I'm thinking here I'm not gonna add any details, maybe just some, maybe just a few here later, because I feel like, you know, you get the idea of the wind right on our hair. So maybe just a few more on her face. And the coloring later would also reinforce the different materials, meaning like what's hair and what's skin and all of that kind of thing. Welcome to everybody who's joined. Maribel, Drowning, Mariana, Adal, Nix, welcome Nix, Jillian. Alrighty, let's move to whatever she's wearing here. And let's add some details to kind of like make something out of it. Matt says, yes, I was once fond of using technical pens and cheap watercolor papers. It feels different from anything else. I may long try it again. Right? So you get me. What are you using now? What sort of medium and paper are you using now and you find that you like? Also, to me, the medium is, I like to think of it as a tool for look development. Because I'm working in digital professionally, and a lot of what we're doing at work is trying to mimic different types of traditional media on our digital work to make it look like, more traditional. So I've been experimenting with a lot of digital tools that gives a traditional look and feel. For example, one app that I'm using is called Rebel, and it's like Photoshop, but it has like watercolor simulation and fluid to it. So you have your digital brushes there, but once you put down a stroke, you have like a water simulation on your digital canvas, and you can kind of rotate the page and have it do different kind of like drips effect. So, and you can mimic oils there and color mixing and all that kind of stuff. So for me, when I choose the paper and the medium, a lot of it has to do with the look of it rather than like how it feels when you make the art. But obviously that's also important. Nix is saying just a mixed media sketchbook inks. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. What kind of sketchbook? Matt says I've been dabbling at just watercolor alone. I've been using ink in sketchbooks for doodling. That's cool. That's cool, man. Just last night I met this watercolor artist, and he told me that if I like to draw with inks, then watercolor would be the medium of choice for coloring and painting because of its unforgiving nature, similarly to inks, in the sense where you cannot erase anything and you have to just kind of like work around your marks as opposed to try to have them lay down perfectly as you would do with oils or acrylics or gouache. So I think that would be the next thing that I'll try to color with watercolors. For today we're still gonna use markers, but probably in a stream or two I'm gonna start using watercolors to color it. Welcome, Laz. Everybody who's joining, welcome. I hope you're having a good evening. We are now at the inking stage of this illustration, where we have a fancy warrior, a fancy friend of the warrior, and a fancy horse. The initial goal was to have this scene where you see like women who are both vulnerable and strong. Hopefully vulnerable kind of like in the face, and strong like, you know, in the composition and setting and outfit. But we'll see what we will end up with. That was the original intention. Matt says, hell yeah, make it work is the philosophy for ink and watercolor. Exactly, I agree. And I kind of got the groove of it when drawing and sketching with the pen. As for painting with the watercolor, that's something I still need to like. It's a watercolor group that does like meetups and classes and field trips and plein air painting, and they're bringing in like celebrity watercolor artists, I guess, to give like lectures and demos. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna check them out and report back. Nick says, is this illustration part of a project or a standalone? No, this is a standalone. I wanted to do a commission piece today that I'm doing for someone, but then I wasn't sure if I'm able to show it or not, so I just chose like a personal project. It's after I took like a 2 weeks break, and what I'm thinking of is starting to integrate more animals into my illustrations to kind of like, you know, have better stories. Multiple figures composition, I've been doing that before, but kind of playing more on that. So, you know, ideally even like 4 or 5 or 6 figures, but making them work together. But I'm starting with 3. Yeah, and then introducing more and more colors as I go. It's a lot of time I test ideas that way. And also when I do it live, there is something about that you film yourself while you do it, that it really forces you to sit down and finish it, as opposed to, you know, when I just doodle at the cafe, a place or something like that. So kind of like that. And I'm thinking of, in the next stream, have like guests that I can speak to that have something interesting to say about art. Not necessarily artists, I mean artists too, but you know, people who study artists, or people who are like, I have like a philosopher friend that does his PhD in, he researches style. What is the style and mean for different people? So I want to have him on too. Nick says, "What's the hardest and most fun part of illustrating for you?" Sorry for all the questions. Oh, no need to sorry. This is no need to apologize. This is I like answering questions. It gives me a break from the drawing. I think the most fun part to me for me is the layout of the composition. So I've done that at the beginning. I just sketched out with a pencil every, where I want everything to be. So like she's gonna look that way. The hair is gonna frame her. The horse is gonna be that. Like just planning it out like a puzzle. It's my favorite part. After that part, I feel like it's just making it pretty and taking it to the finish line. But I feel like most of the juice has been set. And then I really like the inking part. My least favorite part, for now, it might change, is the coloring part at the end with the markers. Uh, yeah, so planning out the composition, and I like to challenge myself. I like to like give myself like anchors. Like you have to use an animal. You have to use three people. You have to do like a person looking at another person. Um, and I just like playing around with the page and see what I can get out of it. Um, and it's funny because when I'm in my day job, it's the other way around. My favorite part is the painting, but that's digital, so that's different. Yeah, but when I'm doing that, it's all about like the positioning and everything, and making sure that the focal point is clear and the the leading lines are clear and the negative space is doing what it needs to do and all that kind of things. Drawing says super excited for the guest streams. Yeah, I might just start doing it. I don't know why I'm pushing it. I just feel like I haven't done it before, so it takes a second to think about like what I'm gonna ask them and how I'm gonna able to pull it off. But I have a lot of ideas for people that I want to bring. So who would you, what would you guys want to hear like um, when you're like tuning in to like such a live stream? Do you like just have like music in the background or like questions and answers, or do you think it would be cool to like listen to a conversation between people about whatever, about like the illustration or art in general? Nick says, "Aha, I'm similar. Layouts in traditional is so much fun. Thank you for answering." Of course, yeah, yeah. I love layout. I feel like that's where the puzzle is being solved. And you see what I've done here? I kind of took um, that motif from the horse and used the same, I guess, material for the earrings and for that part. So there would be something that's connecting all of them. And now here I'm thinking to do um, some details to indicate the form of what she's wearing. So kind of like those shapes. Nix is saying, I like to hear about the thought process during live streams. The music is nice, of course, but I think hearing about the relationship between you and your art is cool to hear about. So this is good. Well, cool, alright. We'll keep it like this then. Yeah. I like it too, because it I feel like it occupies a part in my brain that otherwise is overthinking the illustration. And when I'm just kind of talking about it out loud, and just the hand does its thing, and I don't think about it too much. So I like to use a lot of repetition of simple shapes in my illustrations to indicate details. Each shape by itself doesn't mean much, but when zoomed out, it gives the impression of texture or material. So I have like a few, it's almost like a library of shapes that I like to do. And some of them are a bit more organic, and some are a bit more rigid. And then I just kind of like play between them until I find something, and I keep repeating them until I get something that I like. So as you can see, these are super simple shapes, but once I'll cover the whole area, you'll see how you'll see the effect that it has. Matt is saying, in a world of generated content, two friends speaking to each other about their life, business, and interests are a rare commodity. Well, cool, Matt. I feel like I agree. I feel like we're in an area where it's all about humanity. I like to call this area that is coming to us superhumanism, because I feel like that's gonna be the counter movement to whatever is going on now, which is not human. And in specific in art, I feel like the process of drawing and painting will have to involve the actual process in it to justify itself, you know, to stand out from the crowd. So I feel like instead of just posting like your work of art, part of the artwork is to show how you got there, in my opinion. Because what's, you know, latest technology, the way the latest technology has affected art making, I think there's gonna be a lot of weight on the actual process. And also both goes for conversations, like you said, just like an authentic conversations between two friends or two professionals or two whatever, just kind of like spontaneously talking without any scripts. I feel like that's like you said, becoming more and more rare. Stupido Studios joins and say, you have a unique style, bro. Well, thanks, thank you, Stupido Studios. I like the name of your studio. Nick says, I notice your line weight doesn't change too much so far. Is that intentional or does that come later? No, that comes later. Later, I'll be starting to incorporate, you know, all the calligraphy stuff, to choose specific areas and kind of go like from thin to thick to thin. I feel like this part is still, I guess, still the drawing phase. So I'm not worrying yet about line weight. I'm gonna make some more strategic choice about it later. And I'm actually gonna show you a lot of cool calligraphy tools to do that. I don't like to do that with the liner pen because I don't like to go back and forth. I like to do it. Let me show you actually. Show you some cool stuff. Show a bunch of tools that I like to use. To vary my line weight. Hold on, let me fill some ink here. So I like to use this one. Okay. Did I forget to clean it? Yeah, to kind of like to go from really super thin to kind of like strand hair to super thick and back within the same stroke. However, I do need to rotate the page to do that, so I'm saving it for later. But you see how kind of like variety you can get with the same pen, with the same stroke. And then I like using that pen, which is also is like a calligraphy pen, because it creates this like cool dry brush effects. So you can kind of like, and it creates really nice strokes in general. And then I like to use, let's see if it's gonna work. I like to use this calligraphy dip pens, which by the way, I had them custom made with my name engraved on it. And the cool thing about it is when you want to do the hatching, you can kind of use various ones to do those, like, you know, to get those parallel lines. So, and I got a bunch of them, so I'll play around with it once I'll get to it, like with different tips. But that, I'm almost considering that part to be a part of the painting process. So I don't do it while I'm inking, and do it before I'm coloring. So we'll get to that soon. But just kind of wanted to show you. Taking plenty of calligraphy lessons lately to improve my line confidence, and I feel like it's really kind of translating well into the illustration. I'll be right back, 1 second. Alrighty, I am back. Nick says, wait, that's so pleasant to look at. Cool. Mariana says, so cool. Oh, the calligraphy stuff? Oh, cool. We'll use it later for sure. Matt says, tool tips are always welcome on an art video. Yeah, definitely. I love talking about the tools. I have way more than I need, so I keep buying them. Cool. Alrighty, where were we? Okay, add some more details here. Okay, so you see how this pattern is starting to become something? So let me ask you this, guys. What, other than like art supply stuff and tools, what else do you think would be cool to go over in those like videos? Just wondering because I had a thought of doing like a workshop or like a community thing, and I'm wondering if like most people just kind of want to hang and draw, or they want it to be like an educational thing, or like a critique thing where people share their work and other critique it, or what do you guys think would be a fun hang? Okay, I think that indicates this material and differentiate those. Let's ink that part now. Drowning says, I love the more free-form conversations about inspiration, motivation, things that move you, your thinking as you make things, etc. Oh, okay, that's cool. I like that. So kind of like stream of consciousness, kind of like vibe. I've actually, I'm always wondering if that has like an audience or not. I love those things. I'm watching a course now by this guy named Mahoney something, and he sells it as like an art course. But what he does, he's just doodling for like 10 hours and tell you about his life. He's not talking about the art at all. But it's so interesting because um, I don't know, he has an interesting life and interesting opinions about things, and I find it refreshing. I find it way more interesting than diagrams or Loomis head or all this shit that they always teach you. Nick says conversations about day-to-day things too. Maybe like a day for you as a professional and your journey there. I feel like critique and workshops are better formatted for planned or forms almost. What do you mean by that? Workshops are better formatted and planned for forms. What do you mean? Live stream feel more like a casual hangout to catch up while drawing, working together for me. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Lives is more like, it's like a casual hang. It's like a chill vibe, and workshop is like more structured and formatted. Yeah, for sure. Nick said I mistyped. Oh, that's fine. You're good. So you see, guys, even like on her shield or whatever she's holding, I'm using the same gag, the same kind of like strings as the horse has, as the earrings here. Just kind of like repeating this motif. Okay, so now I'm thinking let's add some details on her, and I'm feeling like I want to make her fancy, so I want to put a necklace on her and maybe also make her wear something with like interesting patterns. When I choose my patterns for jewelry and or for the clothes, I like to look at references from either Gustav Klimt or fuck, I always forget the other guy's name. What's the other guy's name? Not Gustav Klimt. I'll remember it in a second. Nick says, I meant that posting an appointed time through a form for people to sign up to be critiqued would be better for a workshop instead of a live stream. Exactly. You're totally right. I'm gonna do that. I might do like a workshop, and tell me guys if you think it's a good idea. Like a workshop where I teach, you know, part of my process, um, and then but it would be more focused on the participant. So, if like someone signs up and they wanna work on their illustration or character design or costume design or fashion design, whatever they're into, they can see the course or the workshop, but they can also then, jump on a call and, we can go over it together, draw over it, paint over it. Because I feel like what's missing for me in all those online courses is like the lack of human connection with the instructor. You get videos and they're usually very good. A lot of times, like very high production value. But then you start practicing what you see, and you have no idea if you're doing, what was asked of you. You're just there alone. It's almost like watching YouTube. So for me, it's like if I'll do a workshop, it would have to have like I don't want to call it a critique. Critique to me sounds like a harsh word. It'll be like not a mentorship, but a dynamic in which everybody can present their work and learn from other people. Um, Man says Sergio Topi seems from a similar vein. Yeah, Sergio Topi, for sure. But I didn't meant him. I meant Gustav Klimt, and then what's the other guy's name? Hold on, let me look it up because that's gonna drive me crazy. Gustav Klimt, and what's the other guy's name? Oh, Egon Schiele. Egon Schiele. So I always have references open by Egon Schiele and Gustav Klimt, which, by the way, Sergio Topi was also kind of referencing. If you look closely at Topi's work, the way he does the hatching is very kind of like a Gustav Klimt vibe. I what I like to take from Sergio Topi is the use of negative space, like here. You know, it's how he creates focal points, but then use big graphical shapes as negative shapes to frame the focal points. He's such a master at the composition. I feel he's better at composition than Gustav Klimt or Egon Schiele, but they are so good at those kind of like texture details, pattern stuff. I love them. Matt says the feedback costs extra. Uh, yeah, I guess so. You're right, because that's more like one on one and requires more attention. And yeah, that makes sense. But do you feel like people, I wonder if people would even want like feedback? Actually, feedback, that's the word I was looking for, not critique. Critique is such a harsh word. Like critique, it's something we use for work. I don't want to use it for any fun stuff. Nick says the face-to-face connection in a workshop is what I've been looking for. Exactly, because you want, you know, I was doing one workshop once in 2017 with, I don't know if you know, it's a guy named Dylan Cole, and now he's the production designer of the Avatar sequels. He was a matte painter on Lord of the Rings, and he's like very famous artist, and he has really famous Gnomon DVDs. Anyway, but so I've been watching his tutorial for years, and then one day, and he wasn't big on social media back then, but one day he came out of nowhere back to the internet, says that he's opening a workshop for 9 weeks for only 20 people, and every week he's gonna give you a feedback, and then on the ninth week, we all meet live in life in Orange County and present our work in a gallery of the guy who hosted it. And I immediately signed up, and I also told my supervisor back then at Blue Sky Studios where I was working. We both signed up, and I feel like that 9 weeks workshop, because of the face-to-face interaction, was one of the most transformative things in my career. And it wasn't even because of the feedback, it was because that once you know that the homework that you are given or the tasks are being watched by an artist you admire, it makes you really be accountable for it, you know um, so I feel like human to human feedback or connection, it's very important, um, for many reasons. It helps build a community. It helps give meaning to the things you do. Like, you don't just do it for yourself, you're doing it for another person that might look at it. It helps build an artist identity. It creates like a support system. Artists have to be there for each other, kind of thing. So yeah, it has a lot of benefits, in my opinion. Matt says the vein is so rich. What do you mean by that? Welcome, Claudia. Guys, we are now joined by Claudia, number one calligraphy artist in the world. Hello. Drowning said, "That's amazing." Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I really believe that's the case. I feel like, you know, artist connections is important. Building a community is important, especially for artists. You know, it's such a lonely kind of like job. So we all have to be there for each other. Claudia says, "Hello. I love your focal points." Thank you, Claudia. I appreciate it. Claudia, thank you. I wish. Guys, if you're ever in San Diego and you happen to get married while you're here and you need someone to design your wedding invitation, now you know where to go to. Welcome, Solo Stand. Welcome, Jacqueline. Welcome, Nick. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so here I'm gonna use the Gustav Klimt Egon Schiele patterns to give it like a fancier vibe. But I'm gonna just create like my boundaries first. Okay, so what happened to the music? Let's put the music back on. Just gonna indicate a beat of lines here to indicate the form. But this is all gonna be colored later, and I'm thinking purple, kind of purple and maybe turquoise. Drowning said, "Music is always a huge inspiration for things I work on. I heard a song maybe a week ago that helped me outline a story I didn't even have much developed. Helped me put the story very well." Yeah, I agree. It's amazing how music does that, right? It also gives me a lot of times idea for uh, what to paint, and also I think I'm spending more time choosing the right music for the process real later than I'm to create the illustration. Because it's like 50% of the emotional effect comes from the music, in my opinion. Nix asked, "What was the song?" Yeah, Drowning. What was the song? Tell us, so we can all enjoy. I feel like, am I? Yeah, I think I'm drawing out of frame. Oh my god. Hold on, let me bring it back to frame. Sorry, I made a small adjustment here. Johnny says, Quete Pares Alex Serra. Oh, that's cool. I'll have to listen to it later. I would have played it right now, but Instagram is gonna kick me out if I'll do that. So I tried that before. So here I'm gonna go with something bolder. Nick says HD Soundy curates a lot of cool music on YouTube that I use for drawing as well. Oh, cool. Do you know if they are copyrighted free? Like, can I play them on the stream or would we get kicked out? Johnny says, 8-7, I'm working on a story about a village that is connected to nature. And the village warrior takes her son on their first hunt together. The gods honor her achievements, and one takes her as wife. Oh, I love that. I love that bit. Into the stars, the young son vows to use his skills to hunt his mother down to try and bring her back. That song worked really well for the journey he takes. Oh, I love that. Do you ever get inspiration for writing when you're like on a walk, or where does inspiration hits you? When you're in the shower, when you're at the gym? I feel like to me it's always when I'm in movement or driving. It's never when I'm at home. Okay, let's do some more here. That song worked really well for the journey he takes. Very cool. Okay, so now I think what I'm gonna do, I wanna add some super thin lines on the inside as details, and then we're gonna go through some line weight stuff, and then we're gonna start the coloring. Welcome, Divya. Nick says, I'm honestly not sure. The channel collects from other artists and reposts their music with their permission, so maybe? Okay, I'll give it a try, I'll see. Check. Drawing said, inspiration definitely hits me while driving or while kind of letting my mind wander in a way like meditating. I find that I get inspired by conversations I have, current events, my and other lives. Yeah, definitely. Were you inspired from the WonderCon thing and the people you met there? I came back like super inspired. Okay, I feel like this is too thin. I need something stronger. Let's try this one. No. Just use 0.2. Nick says, movie studios have asked to use some of the tracks posted on there, and that's the only time I've seen permission to be required. Oh, that's interesting. The thing about Instagram and YouTube's algorithm is that they recognize, they have an algorithm that recognizes the music and shuts you off immediately. So right now I'm just kind of doodling some minor inner details. Maybe another eyelash here. I feel like to me it's all about nailing the silhouette. Once I got the contour the way I like it, then it's easier to go inside and scribble some more details to give more texture and hint of details. I like to work outside in as opposed to like building the construction lines and all the primitive shapes and working like that, just like how I'm used to. But you know, there is no right or wrong here. It's whatever you feel like. Welcome, Solo Stand. Welcome, welcome. Just gonna add some small details here. Nick says, I'm inspired by my friends and I who are all navigating the same world in different ways. Harmony in diverse background is really important to my storytelling identity, so I always like to pick brains. I love that. So cool. I like your curiosity. Is there anything you've learned from picking others' brain that like really surprised you or that changed the way you create? I'm thinking of adding some details here to, yeah, I feel like it's a bit too empty and it's not clear what it is, so some sort of like organic shapes. Okay, cool. So now I think I'm pretty much oh, Nick says, everyone who's told me they love art loves it for different reason. That's so true. For some, it's a refuge. For others, it's a way to help others. Some people are carrying a legacy. I'm just fascinating. It is. It's so interesting, right? That everybody are for it for a different reason. I've never met anyone who had the same relationship with art as another person. I agree. I feel like even for the same people, I think it changes. Like if you think about what art means to you now versus um, what it meant, I don't know, 10 years ago, it's probably have changed. Drawing says, yeah, it's so interesting what people draw from to create things. Yeah. While Wilfred Art says, agree. It's very cool. Nick says, I'm pretty deep into psychology too, so I like to see how that manifests in their work. I go through my own work and can see exactly who I was in that moment. Dude, that's so true. I always say it too. I say that um, drawing and making art or writing or whatever you do is like journaling. Well, not journaling, but it's a way to record who you were and whatever you felt in that moment. And sometimes it tells you what, like sometimes, for example, I don't know what I'm feeling, and then I'm making a piece of art and I look at it, I'm like, oh, okay, now I understand what I'm going through. So it's almost like a therapy in a way. So what I'm doing now, by the way, I kind of finished the inking. I'm gonna add a nice framing here to her hair. And I'm taking the calligraphy brush and I'm just choosing strategic points and work and emphasizing the line weight a bit. And I like to do it when there is an overlap or just where I feel like a place needs more attention to break out the, you know, the same kind of line weight that is there now. Wilfred Art says, I'm so impressed of your art side. Oh, thank you so much, Wilfred. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I feel like with line weight, there are rules to it. For example, you want to do it when you have overlapping shapes, or you want to do the outer contour, thicker, and the inner details thinner, and so on and so forth. Like you want to use it as a shadowing tool, you want to use it as a depth tool. All that is good and all, but the way I like to use it is I like to reinforce the composition. So I just kind of look at the overall thing, and wherever I feel like the compositioning, for example, right now I feel like the composition is leaning towards here, so I'll add some more thicker line here. So I'm almost using it like a compositional tool rather than like a drawing tool, which is how you would usually use it. Yeah, it's just like my personal preference. Or in other words, I use it as a painting device rather than a drawing device, if that makes sense. And what's really important is just to have a variety. Variety is the most important thing, and then the location of it is the second important thing. Nick says, if it's not too personal to ask, may I ask what your relationship with art is, since we're on the topic? No, it's not too personal. Um, well, that's a very interesting question to ask. No, I don't think anyone have ever asked me that. I mean, it started out as just like my job, right? It's what I do for a living. So, for many, many years, all I was doing is kind of like whenever I was practicing or doing art, in my head it was, for my career, to get better, to build a better portfolio, to get a better position or a better role. But in the past, I think 2 years, um, I found out that it means more to me, if that makes sense. And that kind of threw me into an exploration of what it is to me, you know. Um, I think there are many answers to it, so I'm not sure what to give, but I can say that after I finish like a 2 hour session of like an illustration like this, I feel so relaxed, and I feel like my mind is so clear, which makes me only think that this is some sort of therapy for me. It has like the same effect. I mean, not in the sense where you learn things about yourself, although you do, but it gives the same effect of like my mind is now clear for the next 2 days, and I don't have anything that gives me that, even not like fitness and sport and exercising, which kind of does the same effect. So right now it's more on the therapeutic side of things, in a good way. Um, and I think a part of it is the focused attention that I have when I'm making something that puts me like a flow state of mind. Um, which is what meditation's supposed to give you, but for me it's very hard to meditate. Like, it's just very hard to focus. But on something like this, it's easy to focus, and then you focus on it, and you forget everything. You forget everything that is outside there in the world for like a couple of hours, and that gives your brain a break and an escape, even if it's just a short one. Um, and obviously, on the process, you make something cool, and I feel like art is similar to exercising in the way that, in the sense that you have a small progression every time you do it, and that in it by itself is something very satisfying to see a progression that happens, even if it's a small one, and that it's always like there is no end goal here, except for to progress a bit every day. It's kind of like when you go to the gym, or when you go running, you don't have a goal to be like a world champion. Your only goal is to be a bit better today than you were yesterday, and when you feel like you've achieved that, you're satisfied, and that's like something you always have with you. Nick says, so meditative and reflective, maybe. That's a really beautiful bond to have with your work. Thank you. I'm glad there is comfort in it. Yeah, I'm glad so too. What it is, Everybody in the chat, you guys should write what does it mean for you guys, and where do you create from? And actually, let me phrase it the same way Nick's phrased it. What is your relationship with art? Feel free to write it down if it's not too personal. And in the meantime, you see, guys, how just choosing specific spots and adding a bit more weight to them just creates more, I guess, intentionality to the 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 drawing. Nick says, I'm a bottom line university student, so it's a fight to not let the portfolio and all that get to me. The industry is like a cruel mistress to me. Haha. Oh, I get you for sure. I've been there, and that's fine. That's, part of um, school and putting yourself out there and working on your stuff. I think that's a very exciting time in your life to be in. It's scary because you have all these unknowns, but you also have, like, the world is yours, so it's like everything is possible at the same time. Guys, have you noticed that the horse has the same eyelashes as the women? Because the horse is a fancy horse. Johnny said, art for me is a way for me to communicate out loud things I've learned about the world. Oh, that's cool. It helps me contextualize my thoughts, feeling, and relationships in a way that's hard in day-to-day convo. Oh, that's so cool. That's really cool. So it's almost like a form of communication. It's like a elevated form of communication. I love that. It's kind of like when you hear actors say that, when they're in the when they're playing a role, it's a way for them to express a part of them that they cannot express, in their normal life. It's very cool. Nick says, my relationship with art is a way to explore myself. When my emotions are running high, I like to create so I can catch that emotion in a bottle almost. Then I can revisit when I'm calmer. Oh, I love that. So that's kind of like journaling, right? Or it's kind of almost also like therapy, wouldn't you say? Nick says, that's so true. There are some things words just can't quite capture. Yeah, I agree. I feel like most of my feelings or inner thoughts, I don't even have words to say what they are. Even if I think really deeply about it, I have no ideas what they mean or how to express them. But I can see them on the page, you know? Fucking love this pen. I love it. Nick says journaling and therapizing myself with art. Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's one of the things I'm most grateful for. So I feel like that's a gift that artists have that they can use it for. Nick says also, thank you for your kind words about the portfolio earlier. They were very reassuring, and I hope that wasn't uncomfortable. Oh no, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Feel like yeah, art school. I didn't go to art school. I went to film school, but it's the same vibe. It's you're into super competitive environment, and you're facing a lot of unknowns about the future. And for someone like me, it was very hard to grab. But at the same time, it was very exciting because you really feel like, especially in art school or film school, you're surrounded by so much ambitious people who is there, you know, with that vibe of doing something larger than life, and you start to feel like that too, and I love that. You don't get it as much later on when you're actually working in studios. It's something that is uniquely in schools, and I think it's one of the best things in school actually, that you're surrounded by super ambitious, um, motivated people. Guys, I'm really liking the line weight stuff with the calligraphy pen. This is gonna be like my new thing. I kind of don't really want. I don't want to ruin it with color. I don't know what to do. Should I color it? Should I leave it? What should I do? No, I feel like it needs a touch of color to to create some hierarchy. Right. Let it dry for a second. Okay, let's choose colors. And you guys mentioned Topi. I am gonna um, reference how he uses colors and use very, very, very lightly. Nick says you could make a copy of the inks just in case you don't like the colors. I guess I can. Or I'm just gonna take a photo of it with my phone. 1 second. I'm just gonna use it very lightly, so I think I'm only gonna add color to this part of the hair and her hair and maybe some of the shirt, and that's it. And I'm gonna leave the rest blank, and maybe the lips and the eyes. So we'll see. Drowning says definitely needs some type of color. This internal debate is so real. Okay, you guys need to help me choose a color. I want like a muted blue, green, and a muted purple. So let's see. Oh, this is too saturated. Ooh, you know what I'm gonna do? I have an idea. I'm gonna color it with the grayscale markers first. This is maybe... This is too dark. Maybe this for the hair. Yeah, this is an option. Let's check out some more. I like that one too. Yeah, I think that's the one. I think that's gonna be the first layer of color, and then the other one are gonna be like spots of purple. Yeah, I like it. Nick says art relationships are all different, but damn, the struggles are still universal. By struggles, do you mean the struggles of studying it and trying to become a professional artist? Johnny says lol, right? Nick says, oh, I meant deciding whether to color or leave it as line art. Yeah, I feel like it's too busy to stay as line art, and I feel like the marker would help push some things forward. So I'm using the marker more of like to indicate different values rather than for its hue. Um, which is something that this is also something I noticed that with Topi's work, is that when he does things in color, it's very, very simple, like just flat colors. All of the shading and the value work is done with the inks. And then the color is just to kind of like create some more focal points. And his color, the color relationships that he chooses are very interesting and unique. But he's not like shading stuff, you know, in a photoreal way or like in a realistic way in any sense. And I think he also used watercolor. So I'm using Ohuhu markers, which I really like. I actually like them better than the Copic, and I like them better than the Olo ones. Although I started with Olo and then switched to those. They just feel smoother and they're more affordable, and they have more. I think they have more variety. They have like 300 colors or something. Welcome, Lisa. Queen Guti. Welcome, welcome. Nick says you mentioned another artist earlier, Egon Schiele. Look him up. Or Egon Schiele. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I think either he was the mentor of Gustav Klimt or the other way around. Gustav Klimt was his mentor, but they were living and working at the same time, and they're both like, you can see the, oh no, it's fuck, that you can see the influences on one another, and you can see both of them really influenced Topi. these are just like gonna be white. Welcome, Greater Shock, art by Vilena. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Alright, choose some new music. Cool. I like it. Okay. Nick says the framing of the face is pretty. Thank you. Thanks. Now, I'm just gonna use it a bit more here, and then I'm gonna choose my darker color. So that's hey Ron, hey Jude. Jude says, what's good, gang? Good. How's it going? Welcome, Sarah. Sarah Scott says howdy. Nixon Drowning says hi. Oh, guys, we're having a party here. With the fun new music I found. Jude says, I think I want to join you in some drawing. Well, go ahead and do it. Take a sketchbook, follow along. Cool. John said I'm gonna do some writing myself. Cool. I like how I'm getting everyone to be productive here. I like that. Okay, so I think I'm done with my first layer of color. Now I want to choose another one that is a bit darker purple. Jude asks, how are you liking those gray markers you unboxed however long ago? Oh, I love them. I love them so much that I got some more. Yeah, they're really nice. Very good for like backgrounds and stuff like that. And they were pretty cheap. That one is a candidate. It's too strong. Sarah Scott says, drawing does sound nice before I start winding down. Just grabbing my sketchbook. Perfect. Grab your sketchbook, follow along. This is the place and time. Nick says, oh, what song is it? It's peaceful. Yeah. It's called To the Coast of Ceylon by Daniel Cade. Johnny says, I love the shade of purple. Thanks, man. I imagine her hair staying white or yellow, and I'm so glad you didn't go with that. Thank you. I like that purple too, but I feel like I want it a bit darker. So I'm gonna do another pass. Nick says, I kinda imagine a pinker shade of purple. Yeah. No. Dark purple is what I'm feeling like. And I'm gonna use the same shade as here, same hue, to kind of do some spots here as well, but I'm still thinking about it. Because guys, she's majestic, right? And purple is the color of majestic. Do you guys know any good, like, who's your favorite coloring artist? Like, someone who's really good with markers or watercolors or paints. I like this artist called Bella Ratchlin, specifically for her use of markers. Her like marker work looks almost traditional, almost digital, I mean. Yeah, I like this one. Yeah, Sue Paul says, this looks awesome. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Nick says, Devinella Kurtz has such a warm feel to her works. Oh yeah, I know her. Yeah, she's good. She does like children book illustration, right? So I'm gonna use the darkest purple just where as the framing elements. where it touches her face, so to get more contrast to make her pop. Nick says JC Leyendecker too. Oh, I don't know that. I need to look him up. Let's look him up. JC. Oh, nice. Oh, cool illustrations. Kind of old school. Iris asks, hey, question. How did you go about studying anatomy? I'm trying to use basic shapes, but it's confusing me. Also, I really love how you draw. So cool. Thank you so much. Um, That's a good question. I think Proco has a lot of good anatomy courses. Um, I did a lot of real life figure drawing at a place called Watts Atelier in San Diego. So I think figure drawing can definitely help. Um, like 5 minutes pose, 10 minutes pose, 30 minutes poses. Um, but what really kind of unlocked it for me is to actually not start with the primitive shapes, but think about it more as trying to draw the figure silhouette first and then go inside and adding the details rather than starting with your typical construction line, Loomis head, all that kind of stuff. So it really depends on how you like to simplify the shapes. For me, it's much easier to capture the contour and the silhouette rather than to break it into like spheres and cylinders and stuff like that you do more when you do like academy work. So for example, something you can try to do is like look at your hand, do like a fist, and then try to draw the contour shape of your hand. And once you're done, start doing like the fingers and the nails and the details. See if that works for you. Luspa says, nice purple. Thank you. Kind of thinking having it purple starting here and everything above it will stay greenish. Iris says, that actually helps me a lot. I don't know how I wasn't considering silhouettes, just like blocking out the overall shapes and just going back and detailing. Yeah, it's because almost all the schools, that's how they teach. They teach you like they break down the figure into primitive shapes, and they do that to help you simplify. They think that the principle says that figures are very complicated, so let's simplify it into primitive shape, which makes sense. But for some people, and me amongst them, the primitive shapes confuses me more than help me simplify it. And even if I'm able to block in the primitive shapes, I'm unable to turn it into a figure. However, it's easier for me to look at the person's face or a figure like in a pose and kind of like drawing the overall shape and have like a silhouette. And then once you have that and you kind of like measure the proportions a bit to see that you're like in the right ballpark, it's not that easy, but it's a different method. And then adding in the inner details, it's much easier because you already have everything in place. And then once you do that a lot, then you can start even drawing from imagination. because you already have all these like library of general shapes and silhouettes. Is this weird? Should I go full purple? Yeah, I probably should. Even though I like the green, I like it. It's gone. No worries. There's always gonna be a new drawing tomorrow. Iris says, I'll definitely have to practice more with that in mind. I draw as a hobby, but I love to just be able to better put onto paper what's in my head. I think that's a really good goal to have. We were just discussing it before, the connection between art making and journaling and mental health and um, self-reflection. So I think you should definitely um, try to pursue that, but also don't be discouraged about anatomy. It's, you know, don't let it be the thing that stops you. It's whenever someone tells me that he gets their anatomy wrong and the proportion wrong, my immediate answer is thank God, because you know, the mistakes makes us who we are. They also make our style, and they you don't have to have a perfect anatomy to allow yourself to draw what's in your head or perspective or anything else in that manner. You don't even have to have perfect anatomy to work as an artist, to be honest. Um, Sarah Scott says, taking notes. Primitive shapes have confused me a lot as well. I enjoy building mental libraries of more obscure shapes to build upon. Exactly, exactly. Um, it confused me for years, and until I came across someone who just showed the silhouette method, and ever since then I'm like, oh my god, I fucking wasted all this time on doing spheres. So I wonder why it's not more common. Nick says, never too much purple. I agree. And I'm gonna go, I think, even darker on that one. Welcome, Yoni. Welcome, Mendoza Art. Oddpie. Iris says, just being creative is the main idea. So many outlets for creation, and people will never pursue that. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You shouldn't let that hold you back, you know? I think purple is becoming my favorite color. Iris says, probably not as common because everyone thinks you have to learn it like one way, but everyone learns differently. So it's nice to hear different ways to learn. Yeah, you know, that is exactly how I felt. I felt like, how come I haven't heard of this method earlier? And so later in my art journey. Um, so yeah, try it out. Uh, it's actually very fun to try to capture silhouettes, and it's very satisfying when you're able to do it. And it also, I feel like it also helps with your design if that's what you're trying to achieve. When you're doing all the construction lines, um, it might be more accurate, but it really limits you then later to them. Uh, Whereas when you start with silhouette, then the silhouette itself has like a design phase to it, where you can kind of like push and pull things around. Um, the way you would when you do a character design, you would create silhouettes for the character to find something like a cool shape. So same for figure drawing. But when you start from construction, you're not gonna necessarily make the construction lines artistic, right? You're gonna try to make them accurate. So you kind of create. I feel like the construction line method limits how much you can push your your design later when you're creating the actual figure. That makes sense. But again, there is no right or wrong here. It's just like um, uh, whatever works for you. And the person that I've heard it from said that it's almost like it's like different types of brains who thinks in silhouettes and brains who thinks in like simplifying forms. Here he says purple is a very beautiful color, to be fair. Yeah, I agree, especially this purple, which is Deep Purple by Ohuhu. Sarah Scott says, I'm a huge fan of the silhouette method. For the longest time, I thought I couldn't be an artist because that method was not as popular compared to the perfect anatomy. I thought I needed to have. That's exactly what I thought. That's like you're exactly reading my mind and how I reacted. Glad to see support for the method. Yeah, glad to see people who are uh, relate to to how I felt. The different types of brain is a perfect way to phrase it. Yeah, that's how I was told. I don't know if it's true or not, but it made sense to me. Nick says, I have the opposite problem, where I can only think in primitive shapes, but struggle to draw what I see. I feel confident in lines and shapes, but not silhouettes. Maybe that's the trade off. Yeah, might as well be. But again, there is no right or wrong. It's just um, the goal is the same, which is to make a cool illustration and have a character that are looking cool. The way you get there, it's however you get there is fine. You can draw the whole thing upside down if that's how your brain works. As long as you get there and as long as you're having fun and not suffering your way there. So whatever works works. Yeah, to me, I for many years I tried to do the construction line, and it just not only it bummed me out that I couldn't get it right. It just I felt like that um, working in this method for me, it kind of turned illustration into math, and I'm like, this is so. I want to create art. I don't want to be like a mathematician, and I don't know. It's just it took the fun out of it, and then the silhouette method just brought the fun back. So Iris says the right way is the way that gets you to the final product while keeping you sane. Well, exact. That's exactly right, and and also that makes you like that you're having fun with it, because I feel like the end product is important, especially when you're doing it for work. But what's more important is the excitement you have every day to sit down and try it again and try something new and see if you got better and tinker around with a new technique. I feel like if you like the process, then the final product would be just something you'll get for free out of it. Braulio Masanta says, wow, thank you. Sarah says, Iris, I agree. Iris says, literally the math comparison. I know it's like math with all the fucking cubes and spheres. I do digital but train on traditional. Having to use rulers and line tools drive me crazy. Yeah, I get you. And the plumb line and the perspective line. I mean, Nick says, I like the throw mud at the wall until something sticks techniques. I like that too. And I like also, a lot of art, especially with traditional media, is just about trying stuff, making mistakes, trying to work around them. For example, here I tried to do something with the purple. It didn't work, so now I'm just doing the whole thing purple. But I've learned. I've learned for next time, and yeah, and then that's how you improve. But you kind of have fun with it. You need to learn to make fun of it. Welcome, Nate, Paul, Calamari Draws. Iris says, gotta have fun, make mistakes. Art isn't supposed to be perfect. At that point, a computer would be doing it all. Exactly, exactly. We are all here together to be human and to fight the evil, which is the computer. To prove that we are better than the computer. Nick says, I feel like drawing from construction and primitives, at least from my view, might be because a lot of non artists will say that copying a reference is cheating, so it threw a lot of artists off. Let me think about it. I think it's interesting, the whole reference debate. Uh, some pe- I always like to hear where everyone stands on what they call cheating. Like for some people, looking at a photo reference is cheating, right? Because you don't draw from imagination, you're just cheating. For some people, looking at reference is, um, or for I've heard it, like even looking at like live models, like at a figure drawing class, is cheating, right? Because you're just copying what you're seeing. But I think that's absurd, and I think that I mean, not that it's absurd. I just feel like every artist decides where the line, like what they consider um, a pure versus cheap, I guess. But again, this is like an endless. Because even if you draw from imagination, your imagination is consists of things you've seen before. So Um, Erie says, I find it so crazy that some people call using reference cheating. It's a really useful tool. It's like taking a math test but saying you can't use a calculator. Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting. I've been thinking lately about, I've been trying to think of how artists first fell when they invented photography. Because now it's like photography are it's an artist's best friend, right? You take photos, you take references, you look at photos. It's just like like Iris said, it's like it's a really useful tool. But I bet that when it first was invented, that wasn't the case at all. Giving the reactions that we see now to new technologies and the resistance to it, uh, I would argue that when photography was first invented, painters were reacting kind of the same, especially when the role of painting back then was to record and capture reality. Um, it had a utility to it, not just like an artistic purpose. So I feel like history repeats itself, and I feel like the reason why I'm kind of read about this period of time is to see how um, the the painters have reacted to the invention of photography, and I fucking love this purple. And so if I would have to guess, I would say you you could divide it to a few groups. One group of painters have just decided to become photographers because as painters their role, as they saw it, was to capture and record reality. Giving that role and purpose, it's obvious to now use a camera. But some artists probably thought that their goal and purpose in life as painters is to interpreted reality or design reality, which is something the camera don't do. So I would guess that this group of artists became more, their art became more painterly, more abstract, more impressionistic, anything that the camera couldn't do by capturing reality as it is. So there was like a counter reaction to the realism of the camera. But then, what history has taught us is that at the end, what happened was that photography has changed how painters work, and paintings have changed how photographers work, and they all kind of influenced each other and meshed into this one thing. And I'm wondering if history would repeat itself with current technologies, or is it just going to be a whole new thing that uh, we cannot even anticipate. Sarah says, right, many times when I want to draw a pose in an angle I wouldn't see often, I make a mental image that I can draw. I wouldn't be able to make those mentally without studying references or making them. Exactly, exactly. So it's always interesting when people say that they're drawing from imagination. It's, well, what even is imagination, you know? Sarah says, wow, I haven't really thought about it that way from historical lens. Yeah, I've seen a really good YouTube about it actually. Make me think about it. Right. Let's do some more purple stuff. Some shirt here. Iris says, feel like the only way you can really cheat in art is just art theft. But that's just slapping your name on someone's work and claiming you made it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Nick says, really love how you have blank spaces around the face to frame the detailing. Thank you. That's I really like doing that. I like I like to think of I like to think of color as a compositional element more than like an aesthetic choice. So before I added the colors, um, it was the drawing was working, but it wasn't clear what the focal points are. You were kind of looking all over the place, and I feel like the colors kind of like helped create a hierarchy between kind of like where you need to look at. Right, gang, we are about to be done. I think I'm gonna call this one done soon. Maybe I'm gonna cut out this part. I think so for posting it. Let's try something here. Oh no, it kind of works like this too. I'm gonna keep it. Matt says looks good. Thank you. Alrighty, gang. With that, I'm gonna call it. Thank you, everybody who joined. I'm gonna do it more often, hopefully. Thank you, Iris, Nix, Solostan, Sarah, Matt, Drowning, Andrea, Jillian. Thank you for a wonderful conversation and being with me creating this piece. Uh, until next time, have a great evening and good night. Bye bye.